Welcome to the Sweet Subversives podcast.
Ready to fall in love with the sweet subversive with you. Oops, there. I turned my microphone. I'm like, all of a sudden, the light went off and on. So hopefully you can hear me. If not, yes, we're back.
Yes, we are.
Dang right. This is the best day ever. We are together, all of us. We made it through another freaking week in 2020.
I love you, Heather.
I love you, Kara. And that's what holds me together in all this weird craziness of this world that we're going through now.
Yes.
I saw something funny on the internet today. I watched a show called Black Mirror, and they have an ad up, and I think it's in London, and they have it on bus stops, and it has a mirror on the side, and it says season 6. You're living it now. I'm like, oh, it's so true and freaking crazy.
Painfully true.
So painfully true. It is nuts. But I see. Oh, good. Chris is there. I see his face in the.
Very good. Very good.
Good. Hi, Chris. Yes, good. That means everything's working as it should.
Okay, so tonight we have a fantastic guest, and keep in mind, people, at the end, we always share one awesome thing that happened to us this week. So start thinking about one awesome thing that happened to you this week that you would like to share with others, because we share, and then we share your comments, and then we end on a happier note, because there's, we need some happiness. But we have a great, wonderful guest tonight. He is the fabulous and fantastic chair of the Libertarian Party of Minnesota. And he also lives in an area in the Twin Cities that has really been impacted with protests, with police action, with rioting, with everything, everything you can think of. Wonderful things, sad things, everything. And so he has been also to the vigils and the protests and the rallies and the marches and the everything that's going on, everything. And so he's going to join us and tell us a little bit about what he's seen and experienced. So if we can bring Chris Holbrook on.
I shall do that right now.
Hey, girlfriends.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, I think the last time I had you two alone was 2 years ago in New Orleans. We went to a jazz brunch.
Yes, we did.
This is almost as fun as that.
Yes. Although I'm getting a little feedback.
Are you?
Yeah.
Is it me?
It might be you, but
all right. I'll try and. I was trying to run it on my computer too, but fuck it. I can swear, right?
Yeah.
No.
I'm like yes.
Is that any better?
Let's see.
No.
Here's a test. I'm gonna mute you. Kara, hi. How are you doing? Are we echoing?
I think we got it now.
That's because I muted him. It's him.
Oh, crap. Oh, no.
What do we do?
Let's see.
Are you sure it's me?
Yeah, because I know.
Let's do a microphone check here. Audio. Speakerphone. Piece. Is that any better?
Let's see. You got it. Oh, no.
No better.
I'm going to go grab my headset. Because then you won't get much feedback, I hope. So
sounds fine on my end.
I'll be right back.
I have everything off. I just have my phone on. So I don't know what to tell you.
I'll be right back. I'm gonna grab that.
Well, while we're waiting for Heather to get her headset, which I think we'll see. Chris, could you tell us a little bit about what you've seen experienced this week?
Oh my God. I don't know where to start. To try, and I could go on for a long time. So if at any point you want me to stop, just jump in. I'm going to give you a heads up too. After usually 20 to 30 minutes, my phone overheats on live streams. It shuts down, so I might have to come back on or be done with me. But to try and make a long story short, I after 2 months of having a real tough time in general, my wife and I went away for Memorial Day weekend, which was supposed to be the Austin trip with you guys, actually.
I know.
And we still took that weekend to go visit my parents in Wisconsin, who live in a rural area. And it was a really good, relaxing charging of the batteries until Memorial Day when we came back to the death of George Floyd. So Tuesday was shock, like it was for most of us. Wednesday, I had gone to work and I stopped at 2 or 3 rallies, memorials, community protests afterwards. The second or third one that day I went to, I believe, was at the 3rd precinct, which evolved or devolved into total rioting later that night and the following night. And I'm 100% a peaceful protester. I don't believe in violent protests and rioting, but unfortunately those elements emerged. And I've been sharing and streaming a lot of videos, pictures, because I want people to know and see what's really going on here. And then the following night, I believe, was when the 3rd precinct got burned down. I think that was Thursday night. Mm-hmm. That was the same day that my neighborhood got burned down. So for anyone listening, frame of reference, I'm about 9 miles away from where George Floyd was killed. About 6 miles to that site is the 3rd precinct area where there were other protests. My neighborhood, the Midway in St. Paul, on Thursday afternoon, I started getting notes from neighbors about the Target being overrun by looters and shut down and stuff. And I went over there and I started doing some streaming, and you can see some of the, if you watch my video, some of the, I mean, my God, just crowds of wild people, and then the police coming in with a very heavy hand and launching flashbang grenades and tear gas canisters, rubber bullets. And I have a few shots of myself running from those things. I haven't been hit by a rubber bullet. I've smelled tear gas. I haven't been directly sobbing where you have to pour milk over your face. But that night, I don't think I slept all night. There were at least a dozen fires within a half mile of my house, and I shared a lot of those videos and pictures. And it's really heartbreaking for me. I mean, it's hard. I'm kind of tearing up right now just talking about it because I've lived in this house in this neighborhood for 20 years. So when you go to these places every day of your life, that's where you get your groceries, your clothes, your gas, your tires, your books, your drinks. I mean, all of these things. 5 blocks to the west of my house was a pharmacy, a family-owned pharmacy that building had been there 100 years. It's now a pile of rubble. It was just a blaze that night. So I, since then, have continued to go to 1, 2, or 3 rallies a day, and there have been incredible rallies, and I've shown a lot of those on my Facebook page. And they're peaceful, and there's thousands of people coming out to them, 5,000, 10,000 people, whether it's students at the Minnesota State Capitol or a group of Black activists leading sit-ins at the governor's mansion or at the site of George Floyd's murder by the police officers. And it's been very sobering. It still is, and it's hard to explain to a lot of people who don't live in a city and don't have these kinds of experiences. It's like my family right now. I'm not even talking to them because they can't comprehend what goes on here, how not only Black people are treated, but other minority people in our community. I mean, there's a long list of brutality in the Twin Cities of Hmong people, Vietnamese people, and it's it's been really heartbreaking. It's been very hard for me, and I consider myself a Vulcan. I operate on logic and facts and data, but without really recognizing feelings and emotions that much. But those that I do have and recognize are extremely deep and powerful. So I guess that's, in a quick nutshell. I think today was the first day I didn't go to anything. I've been taking off work just to cope. We've had a hard time sleeping, my wife and I. There are still gunshots going off every night and Black Hawk helicopters flying over our neighborhood. It's kind of toned down a little bit today. Some of the boards are coming off some of the businesses. I haven't seen military vehicles today. It's not dark yet, though, so we'll see. But that's the quick of it.
On the first day what happened on the first day that you came back and you realized something was going on? What happened?
The first day, so we came back on Tuesday. So Tuesday morning. By the way, I heard there were drinks involved in this, so I made myself a White Russian. Can we have a toast here? Cheers.
Yay.
I'm having a Flamingo Dreams Nitro from Left Hand Brewing from Colorado, and it is divine. It's a very nice summer drink.
So I am having.
Whoops, sorry.
I am having a grapefruit and thyme gin and tonic, and I'm drinking it out of my Montco Libertarians glass that I got when I was in Pennsylvania for their convention.
Oh, cheers, y'all.
Oh, this
Cheers.
has been quite a time.
What a week.
Hear me? Can you hear me?
I'm
My
sorry.
mic is-
I mute you every once in a while because we have echo.
You have echo. I don't. So don't say we, Heather. I made a White Russian. This is a commemorative glass from one of my parents' bars. And that has been real tough on my family. They have 2 bars in Wisconsin who have not been able to be open and have customers for 2 months. But anyways, so we came back on Tuesday after Memorial Day, after recharging the batteries with the family. And on the drive home, Angie and I were talking about it. And they're really, I think it's kind of the first 24 hours when something like this happens, it's just shock. You don't know what's happening, how to digest it, how to process it. It was really the day after. And, when I started seeing action and protests and stuff, more things on the news, because it was really mind-boggling to accept what you were seeing on that video. Mm-hmm. And anyone who knows me, I've been in this movement and party for 6 or 7 years. This is one of the things I've always focused on. I've done a lot of work on, and a lot of my friends in the city and that I network with have been for efforts of this regard. We had Michelle Gross from one of my favorite people, Communities United Against Police Brutality. She spoke at our Libertarian convention, I think 2 years ago, when our keynote speaker was Radley Belko, who authored the book, The Rise of the Warrior Cop, which details the history of these problems in America and how we've gotten to the point we're at with the system is just so corrupt and it protects itself, and there's so many problems with it. And the victims of that are not only Black people, all of us, but disproportionately Black people and minorities. Getting a lot of contacts, information, and solidarity with my friends, my neighbors, within the first day. And then, I've always gone out, and I'm not just, some people say, oh, you're just getting involved now, you're just jumping on bandwagon. No, that's not true. This has always been me. There's some kind of quote where it says, times like this don't build who you are, they reveal who you are. And I really believe that's true. I mean, this is, my neighborhood's affected, my community's affected. We've had people, Philando Castile, I've gone to how many marches and vigils and protests and demonstrations for him, or, Marcus Golden, Thurman Blevins, Justine Ruszczyk. I mean, this isn't a new problem. This is just the most vile exposure and instance of it that I really believe is creating a new movement and a new response. You just wait and see. You think some phenomenal things are happening quickly. This is going to transform our society, our country, and the world.
So which do you think is going to have a bigger impact? Because we have a few things going on right now. We have COVID, we have the response to COVID, and now we have this strong reaction across the country to what we saw with Floyd's death. How do you see that impacting?
My God, there's so many things to unpack right now. And, my immersion in it, I guess, gives me a perspective that may be unique in the fact that as a libertarian and the chair of the Libertarian Party, and I want to, dispel any rumor or myth that libertarians don't care about these things. I mean, this is us. We are on the right side of these types of messages again and again and again, whether it's, the drug war, whether it's, other civil rights, gay marriage, whether it's the Second Amendment. I mean, these aren't new things to us. They are who we are. So I think part of that over the last 2 months has been demonstrated with the COVID situation. And it's fascinating to see a month ago, all of the conservative end of the spectrum clamoring against authoritarianism. How dare the government tell us what we can and can't do? How dare they tell us to stay in our house? They don't have the right to not let us run our business. All the liberal end of the spectrum is saying, no, you have to believe everything they say. They know what they're doing. It's the best thing for you, etc. Flash to today, that has flipped. Mm-hmm. All the Republicans are now saying, oh, you need to listen to us in government. We know what's best for you. Obey our power. And all the liberals are like, they don't have the authority to tell you to stay in your house and squash riots with military police. The change, I think people are starting to wake up to what we've known all along, that the lesser of two evils is still evil. It's two sides of the same coin, two wings of the same bird. And I believe, as Malcolm X said, the more dangerous one is the one that pretends to be your friend. And that's where I think people are waking up. And that's where I really think this movement, from both spectrums, they've seen their tribal enemy exposed quickly. So if you other justice, criminal reform, social changes that are happening, I'm happy to. I mean, but when you tie in the COVID situation to the police brutality and oppression of our government upon people right now, they're essentially the same thing, are they not?
Mm-hmm. So much so.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you're seeing, and we watched your live streams and watched you going to all of these protests and really being involved in that type of stuff. And the thing that I saw you doing over and over was saying, forget what people are telling you is happening. This is what's happening. And you were showing people that. So could you explain how you saw your own experience being portrayed and how that was at odds with what you were seeing with your own eyes?
Yeah. So the first couple nights, again, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday became very violent. And there was a quick narrative from the talking heads in their studios and their news desks about why this violence is happening. It's really not Minnesotans. You heard our governor on Friday say that only 20% of the people involved in these riots are Minnesotans. The other 80% are from out of this state. My mayor, Melvin Carter, said Friday, everyone arrested has been from out of this state. We looked up, we documented the addresses of those arrested. Over 80% of them live in this state. Governor Walz and Mayor Carter retracted their statements later that day or the next day. John Harrington, the commissioner of the DPS, Department of Public Safety in Minnesota, which is kind of the clearinghouse for all the agencies, issued two documents, one through the BCA, Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, through their PR division called Minnesota Fusion, on Friday, claiming that 70,000 outside agitators were being bussed into the Twin Cities to attack us. You know what I'm saying? You've seen that. Zero proof, evidence. As I've said, and I've seen, and I've taken pictures, the only buses in our cities full of people are full of cops and military police, state patrol, and National Guard. Those are the only buses you're seeing. They found one, I believe, guy from Chicago, they brought up on riot charges today or yesterday. There was an article today, out of the 325 people arrested over the weekend, 25 of them had out-of-state addresses, 300 had Minnesota addresses. Then you go into the Hennepin County offices. The district attorney and the medical examiner have both been feckless. They've been failures. They have broken the trust to support themselves, the union, the police, and the officials. Mike Freeman came out, it was Friday or Saturday, everyone heard the press conference and couldn't believe what they heard. And this caused a lot of damage on Friday night when he said, I'm not ready to make a charge. We have some conflicting evidence where it may not be possible to find guilt. What? What more evidence do you need? We've seen this all on a videotape. He retracted his statement later in the day and said, oh, no, you misunderstood. I just need to find all evidence. Him dragging his feet on charging the other three officers and the public pressure, I can't underscore how important that is. These massive protests are causing these people to be called out and these changes to happen. They got Governor Walz to dismiss Mike Freeman from the case, who's been screwing the shit up for years and letting cops off the hook, and he got Governor Walz to reassign Keith Ellison to the case. Now, my friends who are black leaders, they don't necessarily like Keith Ellison much more because they've had issues with him in the Jamar Clark case and the police review board where he wouldn't accept citizen input. So they, and I think it's a great idea, demand special prosecution outside of the state, because Keith Ellison, you know, his wife is with the Minneapolis School Board. His son, I believe, is Minneapolis City Council. I mean, he's plugged into this shit too. Now, I totally respect the charges he's brought up. I respect that they are launching an investigation against the Minneapolis police. But honestly, we need outside counsel. We need special prosecution. Continuing the lies from all these officials, which I've highlighted and demonstrated, the medical examiner in Hennepin County came out and said, well, it's not necessarily homicide. He didn't die from pressure to the asphyxiation. He brought up underlying heart conditions and intoxicants. What? The medical condition he died from was a knee on his neck for 8 minutes. Thank God the family had an independent autopsy that revealed that information over the weekend. Interestingly enough, after the independent autopsy said, yes, it was a homicide due to asphyxiation due to pressure on the neck, the Hennepin County medical examiner afterwards reissued his review saying it was a homicide that caused his heart attack. Mm-hmm. So the lies are incredible. Just yesterday, I posted my own St. Paul Police Department. I think it was Monday night. There were 24 hippies on the state capitol lawn after curfew singing Kumbaya and God bless them, you know, justice for George Floyd. It was on live on TV. 200 military police surround him. arrest them. They tow their van, which had medic stickers on it. Then they posted yesterday on their Twitter feed pictures of this van. It's like a hippie van, like at a Scooby-Doo show or something. It's got, MASH red crosses painted on it. They were there to help people. So the police department shows pictures of this van with a bat inside it. Oh my gosh, they had a bat in there. And they had gallons of milk. And they had some other bullshit that they put on there. I had seen that van earlier that day at the governor's mansion helping people who needed medical attention. I was one of them on the verge of dehydration, and they were giving out water, and they asked if I needed anything else. I have friends who have told me they know these people, they're helping. So just yesterday, the police department was trying to scare the shit out of us. Again, like every official to try and get us in line, to try and change this discussion from what it really is about, and that's a reform for justice so that no person dies at the hands of government again.
So what types of reforms do you think should happen? Or what types of reforms are you hearing from protesters that they wish to see happen?
Okay, so first off, which happened today, they arrested the other 3 officers. Okay, so getting all 4 of them motherfucking killers in jail is step 1. Step 1, okay? Step 2 is going to be convictions. In the last 10 years, 145 out of 146 police killings have been acquitted. There's 1 person in jail for killing a citizen, and that's Mohammed Noor, a black cop who killed Justine Ruszczyk, a white woman. That's the only person in jail, the only conviction after all of these cases we've had. So charging and arresting is step 1. Convicting is step 2. In addition, the structural reforms we need. You're starting to see some of them, and I'm, again, so thankful. Please, it's so beautiful to see all of the pressure, the phone calls, the rallies, the thousands of people turning out. We need support to resolve the police department in Minneapolis. There have calls on my screen, and can you still hear me?
There we go.
You're a little blocked. There.
A little blocked. Okay, I'm unmuted now.
Yep.
Okay, am I getting too aggressive, too offensive? Am I violating the NAP? Okay, so some of the initial things we've seen are organizations distancing themselves from the Minneapolis Police Department. You've seen the University of Minnesota. Today or yesterday, you saw the Minneapolis School District break their contracts with the Minneapolis Police Department. Today, you saw Londell French, I think he's on the Minneapolis City Council, propose to break the link between the Minneapolis Police Department and the Minneapolis Park Police, who a lot of people don't know, that's a subdivision of the police. So when I got arrested 6 years ago for petitioning, it was by the Minneapolis Park Police, a division of the Minneapolis Police Department. He's proposing that be a separate, almost like a highway helper. Just people in green uniforms, like, okay, if you need help, you need assistance, not there to buzz kids for smoking weed or drinking beer on the beach, throwing them in jail, writing them tickets. So that's a proposal I fully support. And I don't know if you heard me before we were cutting out, the Minneapolis City Council is discussing disbanding the Minneapolis Police Department. And I've been an advocate for a long time, and most libertarians have, of citizen policing. In Minneapolis, 7% of the police live in Minneapolis. That's it. There's no residency requirement. We have the same thing here in St. Paul. I think we have about 13% residency here in St. Paul. So I had a neighbor on a local watch group say, hey, let's come together as a community, invite the police. I said, I'll invite them if they live here. If they live somewhere else and they're coming here to supervise us and monitor us, they're not welcome. This wound is still open. Their actions as a culture, a policing culture, a brutality culture, an oppression culture, have caused our neighborhood to burn. So that is part of what has to be broken apart. In addition, the police unions are a huge problem. Bob KKK Kroll, that's what everyone around here calls him. There are signs at every protest. He is a vile human being. He needs to leave. If the police union does not throw him out as their leader, then they are all complicit in oppression and harassment of minorities. They are as guilty as every one of those 3 supporting cops sitting in jail. The police union, sorry, you want to say something?
Yes. So slightly more Minnesotan. People were talking about creating protest signs against him, and they were trying to create, very Minnesotan protest signs against him. They didn't have KKK in them, but they did say things like, Bob Knoll eats the last lemon bar, and Bob Knoll double forks into the hot dish and things like that. But that was even by people who were very lighthearted. The fact that it has become a meme to do that kind of speaks to this deeper feeling of that there is a real problem there that they need to delve into, whether that's policemen's unions or this particular steward in particular. It does seem like there is kind of a widespread feeling of that, and a feeling that even if a city or a police force wants to do the right thing, they may not be allowed to.
They are unaccountable to the people. They are only accountable to their own union. Now, one of our founding fathers, I don't know if it's James Madison, Thomas Jefferson, totally against the idea of a public service worker union. Because if the government is hiring people to provide basic services, they should not be able to withhold those services from the people. Mm-hmm. I'm not anti-union. Privately, publicly, you've seen it in education, you've seen it in trash collection in other countries, you see it in policing and firefighting, nursing. They hold us hostage time and time again. And the lack of accountability, the lack of justice is due to the police union protecting their members, which they have a contract signed by people like Mayor Jacob Fry. Okay, he's as much as a problem as any of them. He's been mayor for 3 years, and he has said one of his goals is to reform the policing, to get the brutality and the racism out of that department. What's changed? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Bob Kroll is running him. He's not running Bob Kroll. Bob Kroll runs that city. He came out with a letter 2 days ago or yesterday, basically crying that the police haven't gotten fair due process. Let's not rush to conclusions. Are you kidding me? Are you effing kidding me, Bob Kroll? He's been doing this for years. He's an enemy of the people. He needs to go. So the police unions need to go. Their stranglehold over us, the people, needs to be broken. And Kara, as well as anybody, to get elected in the Twin Cities, you need union support, you need union money, you need union endorsement. And what happens then? The politicians reward the unions with these contracts. Benefits for life, insurance, pay. If they kill someone, they go on paid administrative leave. Mohammed Noor was on paid leave for 7 months before they even interviewed him about shooting Justine Dimond. What? I'm sorry, no. That's unacceptable. That has to change. That has to be broken. Those are, to try and finish off some of the quick reforms. I mean, there's so many things, and I honestly believe, I have hope. This moment in time is ours. It was not something we have chosen. It's something we've been given, and we cannot waste it. We have an opportunity to change the world. The world is watching. You see it on your TV, every city, every nation. brutality from government isn't a unique problem. It's not a rare problem. It's a consistent problem. And the fact that this seed, this spark has happened in our own backyard, we have a duty, we have an obligation to see change through. And I will not stop until that happens. And I hope no one else does either.
So our U.S. Congressman out of Michigan, Justin Amash, who is now Libertarian Party, he has put a bill forward to eliminate the qualified immunity for police officers. And he is asking for support for that and asking for people to contact their reps in both the House and the Senate to support this bill. Is that something that you think is a step forward? You're looking at things that are, for Minnesota to do. This is something that would affect across the board, across the country. So are you familiar with the bill that he's putting forward? And is that something that you think is valuable or something that should be supported?
Honestly, I'm not familiar with the bill. I've just seen descriptions of it. I haven't read it. I think it's a fantastic idea. I think, as you know, I don't have a lot of support or hatred for national people and efforts. I think all government's local. I think all party politics is local. I've been very indifferent and non-participative in our own national party politics because change happens locally. And there's a helicopter flying overhead right now. But so you have to, you can only do so much. And this is where when we have discussions about the president, who, by the way, sucks, when you have discussions about that, does that really affect, if you can smoke weed in your state, what the speed limit is, what your property taxes are, how much you pay for education? No, you have to go to your own local meetings, elect your own local people and participate. And don't elect the same damn people. So to your question, we need to set the example here in Minnesota for the world to follow. Just like we set the example for them to riot, we need to show them the way out. We need to show the peaceful structural reform solution. I think it's great that Justin Amash has a national solution. I don't believe any national solution is going to solve our problems locally. We need to solve them locally, and we will.
So one question I have for you, and you kind of brought it up with the helicopter being overhead. What has it been like to have the National Guard coming in? And what do you say to people who are worried that President Trump may bring in martial law? Do you feel you're already living with martial law?
Honestly, yeah, I do. I think the overwhelming use of force in the response to the situation has reinforced why people are rising up to this situation in the first place. If anything, the police, the state troopers, the National Guard have shown why we're not happy because of the way you treat us, the way you mace us, the way you tear gas us for protesting. These protests weren't violent until they started doing that to clear people out. You saw Donald Trump yesterday throwing out canisters of tear gas and rubber bullets so he could walk over to a church and hold up a Bible and take a photo op. That's what they do in China. This is America. And we here in St. Paul have been living under that situation for a week, and in Minneapolis for a week. So every street I go down, there's military vehicles. The shitty part is now they've got everyone terrified reporting on their own neighbors. So with all these falsehoods I pointed out earlier in the show, they are sending out daily information. My own city council person, who I've called out, is part of this fear-mongering and division. That's what they're trying to do to regain control, because fear is how they control you. She's been sending out messages saying, be on the lookout for the KKK. Our neighborhoods are overrun with white supremacists. Turn in any vehicle you see without a license plate. So these neighborhood watch groups I'm on, people are scared shitless, and this is all they're talking about. My neighbors across the street last night packed up and left town because a car rolled down the street and was taking pictures of people's houses. And they said, well, we heard from the city that houses are being targeted if they have Black Lives Matter signs in their windows. So we took our sign out and we got photographs and we think we're being tagged. So we're going to get out of town until it's safe again. What is it? There is something going on here. Now, if you remember 3 or 4 years ago, there were Black Hawk helicopters flying through the skyscrapers in Minneapolis and St. Paul. Mm-hmm. When questioned, the response was, oh, it's just practice, it's just exercise. Don't worry about it, it's normal. People like us are like, exercises for what? And I have seen Black Hawk helicopters over my house every day. What have they done? They've rounded up 20 hippie kids after curfew each night. Now, I'm not saying there aren't some violent people, some nut jobs out there. But what I'm seeing right now is an overreaction, which is not making us safer. The police don't make you safer. The National Guard doesn't make you safer. Every building, every business that has been protected, that is still standing in my neighborhood, had someone in front of it with a gun protecting themselves. Or they self-identified as a Black-owned business, a community business. None of those businesses were saved by police, saved by firefighters, saved by National Guard. They want you, as Harry Brown said, they want to break your leg and give you a crutch and think you need them to walk. That's what's going on here. I think it's shameful. I hate it. It makes me hate the government even more. What you brought up about Donald Trump threatening to bring in the federal military, if you want to turn an uprising on police brutality and civil strife, if you want to turn that into a full-on civil war, bring in the military. Because that's what it'll turn into. I shared a video earlier today. In the events I go to, the number one song I hear is Fuck Donald Trump, which is a protest song by YG and Nipsey from about 4 years ago. So if he wants to dominate the streets are not going to be dominated. And I pray it doesn't come to that. I pray cooler heads prevail. I pray these changes keep happening, these institutional, structural reforms that we need, that we've needed for 30 years, for 50 years, because they haven't happened. We shouldn't have to be going through Rodney King 2.0. That shit should have changed back then. The people today are not going to let this moment pass without that changing. And the stuff you don't see on the news I've been going to and I've been sharing gives me hope and gives me belief that that is going to be the final outcome.
So what is giving you hope?
You know what gives me hope, Kara? I'll tell you what. In my neighborhood, all my neighbors go out on their front yards and we talk to each other. Now, this has been very fascinating since the COVID lockdown when you're supposed to stay in your house. I've seen more people checking on each other than ever before. When I went to the state capitol yesterday, so Midway, it's the middle of St. Paul, then there's the Frogtown neighborhood, then there's the Capital District. So that's 2.5 miles from my house. Frogtown, where I used to live, now I'm in Midway, there was two separate food drop-off and distribution points. So neighbors are dropping off food, water, diapers, feminine products, toilet paper.
I did a big food drop-off.
Yeah. And this is in a rougher neighborhood. I have pictures of everything, and it's hard. I'm trying to just document, and I'm emoting and sharing. I'm not thinking, or someday I'll put all this together in a chain of events or a story. But to see what I'm seeing with that, I've seen that every day, at least twice in my neighborhoods. To see people going out that Saturday morning after our neighborhood got firebombed, hundreds of neighbors out there with their own brooms and shovels, sweeping up debris, helping clean up businesses for people they don't even know. That gives me hope. Neighbors offering and going to stand guard at someone else's business or house to protect them from the supposed Antifa or white supremacists or whatever your spin is that aren't really there. But the coming together of this community, and this is why I live here, and I know people who don't live here don't understand the diversity, how vibrant, how exciting it is to live in a spot that I live in. It's also very heartening and strengthening of this community for us who are here. When I was at the Capitol seeing, I don't know, I shared that video yesterday, somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000 kids. Kids! That was organized by high schoolers. Those are all kids out there.
Kids from my family were there.
Yeah.
All the way from Bill.
Yeah. I think Tasha's kids were there. I ran into, some other libertarians there. So those things give me hope. Those things give me hope. Like I said earlier, the wound is still open. There's still blood coming out, but we're starting to put gauze on it. And these changes will happen with all of us together. Not because Black people are pissed, white people are pissed, anything else. We all have to come together as a people, stay focused. Don't let them divide us. Don't let them make us afraid. And the people, their power, will see these changes through. I believe that. I'm seeing that. That's my hope.
It has been, so people, if you have not been following Chris on Facebook, definitely do so, because the posts, the videos, they have been invaluable for seeing what is really happening. And yeah, some of it is very sad, but a lot of it is really incredible. Like it's an incredible time of seeing people coming together, being very caring towards one another, checking in on one another, but also being very focused on a very specific mission. And that's what I've been seeing in your videos over and over. But everyone else is talking about what's going on, but they have no idea because they're not living it and they're not inside of it. They're seeing what's allowed to be seen. I know my husband and I were watching a video, like just a short little video that someone had posted, and right while we put it up, it disappeared because Facebook was removing it and YouTube is removing it. And it's difficult for a lot of us to see anything because social media is just taking these posts and photographs and videos and they're just deleting them like crazy.
That's right, Kara.
So it's been kind of amazing that yours have stayed up. It's kind of strange on what the algorithm picks up and and takes away. But it's just been invaluable to hear from you what you're really experiencing and seeing, and what you're hoping for, and that you think there really is a lot of hope in this. Because I think people looking from the outside in, they're frightened and anxious and they don't see a lot of hope.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. And, like I said earlier, my horse in this race has changed. It always has been. That's why I'm in this party, in this movement. That's why I'm trying to lead it and show by example what libertarians are, what they believe in. And I feel there's incredible value in documenting and sharing and reporting what's actually going on, because it's not what you're seeing in social media. It's not what you're seeing in mainstream media. These are things I'm seeing with my own eyes. And you both have known me for many years. I'm not a fearmonger. I don't spread conspiracy theories. I just speak the truth, raw emotion, fact, and there is a lot of pain going on right now. People are afraid. When that happens, they start pointing fingers, they start going into their collectives, and that is not going to happen this time. That's not going to solve the problem. And I'm committed to staying part of that, and I hope you guys and everyone else understand that they need to be part of that too. This isn't something you just are going to wake up and boom, it's over, it's solved. Okay, these guys got arrested, back to normal. Just like COVID-19, there is no new normal. There is no new normal.
I just wanted to say, I was watching your video where you're walking to Target, and the kindness that you were showing people. And you were talking to a guy about, like, hey, what are you doing here? And he was talking about a group that he was involved with. And you go, hey, I'm Libertarian. And, you know, we're looking at ballot access as well. And it was so friendly and kind. And it was just like two guys just like visiting. And then all of a sudden there's tear gas and you're running across the street. And I was amazed at the kind heart that you have. And yet, in this tear gas in this tough situation, it really impressed me about your personality and who you are in that. And I mean, it's just like I don't know what I would do in the same situation, but it was really incredible to me.
Well, thank you, Heather. I mean, that's really, really nice. And again, that's who I am. That's who we are as libertarians and as people who live in St. Paul. Every time I've gone out, I've run into someone I know. I was doing one video and I ran into Tasha on the street. And we're both like live streaming each other. I mean, it was kind of funny. But I mean, we are a community. There isn't an agenda. We're not outsiders. We have to address this and change this ourselves. And we're going to do that with kindness and peace and consistency. So the events have been very hard to adapt to early on. And, you know, a side note here, the adaptation to violence has been awakening to me. The first event I was at, I think it was at the 3rd precinct, first time I smelled tear gas ever. I was scared shitless. The first time rubber bullets are hitting stop signs behind me, I'm like running the other way. And then there's people carrying a guy who's totally unconscious who got like hit in the head with a tear gas canister. But at the back, there was a shop owner who had opened up his shop as a medic station, emergency help for people. And that is so inspirational. Every event I've gone to, people are handing out water. They're handing out masks. They're handing out granola bars, sunscreen. What do you need? So even in protests, we're helping and supporting each other. That's not coming from government. That's coming from us. And it will continue to come from us. The last.
Oh, you get.
No, I was just going to mention quick that this support is coming in internationally too.
Yeah.
And I say this as someone who's plugged into a lot of our local minority groups, that tactics to survive government harassment are being shared with us, such as, obviously, I think everyone knows by now, jugs of milk are to.
Oh no!
And we lost him, and we said that might happen.
Oh no! Here he is. He's right back.
Okay.
Am I back?
Yep.
I think I can't believe my phone is still working. But I was just going to say, like some of these tactics, it's shocking to me to see people in other countries sympathizing with us and sending us advice. If you see protesters walking in a video carrying cones, construction cones.
I know what that's like.
Yeah, it's to put over a tear gas canister or water in and it douses it. It's not, but then I have the conspiracy theorists saying, oh my gosh, look at, they're destroying construction sites. No, they're not. There was a woman carrying a leaf blower to blow away the smoke from those things. You've also seen the conspiracy theory, oh, people with red on their arms, that means they're Antifa. No, that means they're medics. I've met them. I've talked to them. So just please don't believe all the bullshit you hear on social media. Talk to people. I mean, honestly, the live streams, the live feeds from people like me, and I'll bring up, Unicorn Riot is a great one to watch. Alpha News. I mean, there's so many live, real people on the scene giving you the truth. You're not going to get it from goddamn Fox News or, I think MSNBC and CNN have been pretty good on this one, actually. But yeah, it's.
I will say, I will say that the local news, they were in an area that was obvious to me that was not dangerous at all, and they're like, we haven't seen any military personnel, and everyone else that was doing a live stream, they were pretty much everywhere except where the media was.
So one of the things that so as someone who used to be in news, I have found really disturbing is how many reporters and crews appear to be deliberately targeted. And whether that's in our state or in other states, but I mean, we are seeing that over and over. And I know the associations for journalism have documented, I think at this point, about 130 plus instances just in the past 5 days where news crews were shot at with rubber bullets, they were tear gassed, they were arrested. And this is not ancillary where they just happened to be in an area. This is where they were identified. They were mainstream corporate media. Oh, we lost Chris. And then they appeared to be targeted to the point where we even have news media who are clearly identified. They have their press badges laying on the ground while, police are guarding them, and another officer comes up and sprays them in the face with mace while they're holding up a press badge. When we see other countries do this, we hit them with economic sanctions. And this is what we're doing.
A quick add-on to that, you saw our state police arrest a black CNN reporter on live TV.
I saw that.
What? That doesn't demonstrate how racist and fucked up we are here. I don't know what does. And then they picked up his microphone and they gave it to the white guy holding the camera. What? Are you kidding me? When you've seen the truth, it's been people with their YouTube phone or whatever phones on their porch getting shot by police in Minneapolis. You saw that on YouTube. You're not going to see it on CNN or Fox News. You're going to see people sitting a mile away trying to play it safe. And the harassment of reporters in this instance has been horrific. It's been embarrassing. There's so many embarrassments about the behavior and the response to what's been going on here. It's shameful. My wife follows a lot of the foreign feeds. So she's like, oh, China thinks we're all idiots. And, Italy thinks we're a bunch of meatheads. She was showing me the stream from Australia in front of the White House when the reporter is like, oh, here's these group in front of the White House. All of a sudden, tear gas canisters start coming out. And the woman's like gushing her eyes out. And the TV newscasters in Australia, oh, my God, Juliet, are you okay? Juliet, what's going on? It's like, I don't know. We were just been hit with rubber bullets and tear gas. And then Donald Trump walks out with a Bible and stands in front of a church.
Yeah.
So you're exactly right, Kara. This is a shit in other countries that is a human rights violation, a civil rights violation, free speech, First Amendment violation. And don't forget it. Don't forget this moment. Don't forget what they're doing right now. This is who they are. Like I led off with, times like this don't build who you are. They reveal who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. And one other thing that I think we also can't ignore. We can't ignore the fact that we as citizens continually demand more and more laws, harsher punishments, more policing for smaller and smaller and tinier things. And so we set the stage, and because we're too lazy, either as politicians or as community members, to interact with one another and have discussions with one another and deal with one another as human beings, we go the lazy route and say, you know what, I'm just going to make a law on this. And then, oh yeah, hey, police, why don't you go enforce that? And so we set the stage for more and more contact, for law enforcement to have to go in and clean up messes that we're not willing to deal with as well. And I think we also need to start taking responsibility for that we ask for this crap. We ask for this to happen to our fellow people because we can't be bothered to go have a conversation with our neighbor.
AM. Stay home, stay safe, stpaul.gov/curfew.
Oh, no.
No, I'm just
Stay
letting
safe.
you know. So
Stay home, stay safe.
this, yeah, did you just, this
Yeah.
notice just popped up on my phone.
I figured
So-
it was something like that.
That's where I was cut out. We've been getting these every day about the curfew, about having to stay home from the city of St. Paul.
Stay
So
home,
my
stay
phone
safe.
just cut out so that message could be shown to me.
That'd be super fun if you're trying to do a live stream on your phone and like it cuts out in the middle of it.
Yeah, well, this is again part of living in the war zone. We get these daily curfew notices on our phones. They all beep. It's like we're beep beep. So all of our phones in the house are going off. I didn't even know there was a curfew tonight. So apparently there's a curfew at 10 p.m.
I didn't see anything about it. That's crazy.
Either. And that
And you live there.
That whole trucker on the highway thing was horrific.
It was.
However, Saturday, the curfew was 8 p.m. They decided to close all the freeways at 7 p.m. Sunday, they changed that to closing the highways at 5 p.m. with about 30 minutes notice. Well, how is anyone supposed to know, adapt, and respond to that? Half of those people, not half, most of them who got arrested that night were because they couldn't get home. They couldn't get on their highways. They couldn't get in their cars. They were trapped. Is that the response we want? Is that making us safer? Is that making our society more tolerant? It's an escalation.
It is. And that's an escalation that's coming from our political class. But it's also an escalation that many of our residents are asking our political class to make because they're frightened and they want to feel safer, whatever. And so we have this circle that keeps going around and around and around. And I think we need to address all parts of that circle, where you are in that circle. And we need to make the evaluation. Am I asking for government to do things that makes me feel a little uncomfortable, but I'm willing to ask government to use force on my behalf? And then when government uses force on my behalf, I act like, well, shit, who knew that could happen? That was a surprise. How awful.
I hit the wrong button.
No, I was just going to say every law passed is a reason to use force against you to enforce it. Mm-hmm. And I don't think enough politicians appreciate the gravity of that. When you pass a law against selling cigarettes in New York, the result is to enforce that police can physically choke you to death. Is that worth having the law against selling individual cigarettes?
No. And I think people need to start realizing that. People need to realize what they're asking for. They need to realize the gravity of what they're asking for.
Yes. It starts with you and you and you and you and you and you.
So we do something at the end of our podcast all the time, and we think of like one awesome thing that happened or that you saw or something awesome that came into your life during the week. And that's something that we share with one another because sometimes it's hard to get through the week. So if you can think of one thing, but your friend thinks of something else and someone thinks of something else, it helps you kind of get through the next week. So that is something that we do. So my thing this week, my sister, she has, which is, a big Minnesotan thing. She has like this little cabin on a lake, little lake. And she got Wi-Fi there so she could work from there. And, she invited me to just office out of her cabin for a day. And so I was able to do my work that I needed to do, but just not have that pressure cooker crazy feeling that we all have in the Twin Cities. I don't have it near as badly as you do, Chris. But it's like this almost physical feeling of pressure on you the entire time. And so that was awesome. I mean, that was an incredible gift that she gave me. So if I look a little sunburnt, that's my deal.
You do look a little sunburnt. But that's a good thing, and it'll probably go away like in about 15 minutes. So I feel like if it was me, I'd probably start on fire, but that's all right.
That's the Syrian half of me. The German half burns, but the Syrian half goes to tan in like 2 hours.
So where is the German half? Is it like on your feet or something? You just gotta cover
the German
that?
half is my nose.
I love it. My thing was I actually got a letter in the mail from somebody who I talk to like a good friend I have lunch with here in Mankato, but we never get to see each other because of COVID-19. And she sent me an actual freaking letter. It's amazing. And it's like, now I gotta I'm gonna write a letter. I haven't done that forever. Like, how nice was that? I feel like that's so old timey. I should like be riding in a chariot or something. But I freaking love it. And I'm just like, it makes me want to cry. I'm just even looking. I'm gonna put it down.
I like how you skipped way past covered wagon and went all the way back to chariot.
Well, like Andy and I are playing Assassin's Creed Origins in Egypt, so like it's in my head. But yes, I mean, I just love that there's sweet things out there that we can do, and it makes me identify weirdly. I read all those Laura Ingalls Wilder books, and like, oh man, those people must have been lonely, and they're sending each other letters, and they got to wait months to find out how their friends are doing. And we can go here and like, how the hell are you doing? It puts things in perspective. I don't know. So that was my good thing for the week.
So what about you, Chris? Do you have an awesome thing?
So here's I hadn't thought about this, so you started talking about it. My favorite good thing this last week, on top of what I've already talked about my neighbors showing support with food donations and sweeping and shared protection, my favorite thing has been my Libertarian Party of Minnesota support network. Kara, you and I met, I don't know, 2013, 2014, and there was like 5 or 6 of us at a Denny's or something, swearing at each other. Yeah. And it was like, I remember you in the parking lot, like, I can't do this. And it's come so far now that we have, instead of having 5 or 6 people swearing at each other, we have dozens of people. We have dozens of leaders. If you see the pictures from our board meetings, we have 16, 20 people in them. And I'm so thankful right now for that, because this week I've called on a lot of them to help me, because so often in the past, back in those days, Kara, it was a one-man show or a no-man show. Mm-hmm. And Chris Dock, who I've met through this organization, has become one of my best friends. He's helped pick up the slack on the POTUS nomination petition form, which needs electors. Jill Galvin has also coordinated as our political director. Today was filing day, by the way. So she coordinated. We have 3 or 4 people who filed. Now, I know we haven't had time to get into this, but we're filing an injunction appeal. So our lawsuit, we lost. We were notified on Friday, and our lawsuit was for an extension on the filing deadline and to change the oath on the petition. Our lawyer is going to do this next appeal to the 8th Circuit Court pro bono. We're bringing other parties into the mix. Now, this has been a big improvement in my relationships as the chair with the chairs of the Independence Party, the Green Party. We're all coming together, every candidate. The electronic signature thing actually made it worse. It's really hard to get signatures from 20 people on your block when you have no idea what their emails are electronically. Yeah. So we didn't have any candidates hit their 500 signature mark, but we're appealing with an injunction for immediate relief, which he feels very good that we're going to get. But I've had to lean on Jill Galvin and Chris Dock to put that together. I've asked each candidate to take care of themselves and take their own initiative, because I'm on the verge of having a nervous breakdown between the situations I'm going through and the time constraints on my life. Oh, by the way, I have a job. And Mason McElvain, our vice chair, has been incredibly helpful. Our executive director, Matt Kowalski, he's been a friend of mine for 15 years. He's been amazing. And I know he gets crazy. Sometimes he because he's a media guy, he puts up these great violence pictures. But, to try and wrap it all up, there's so many people in our organization. That's where they've really responded and picked me up and lifted me up and made me happy and proud to be the chair of this organization for this. This will be my 4th year. So thank all of them. I'm very thankful for them. And that's good. That's good stuff. That's us.
That is good stuff. And yeah, it is us. And we have Kay, who has said yes, made up with a friend whom I love dearly. My week has been much better. It's always good. That's always a good thing.
Fantastic. I know I'm forgetting people. I don't mean to leave out, Kay as our outreach director, Greta as our volunteer coordinator and affiliate, developer. Pat has stepped up as our treasurer. I can't even name all the people right now because I'm just so overwhelmed with, input into my life. But I'm just so thankful to have all of them in my life, and they're giving me strength and allowing me to be myself. So that's where my heart is.
Well, thank you, Chris, for everything you're doing. You are definitely our fearless leader. And the press release you put out was amazing, which is why LP National was so pleased to extensively quote from that. And you've always led by example, and we really, really appreciate that. So, you're taking us on a trip.
I'm going to see if I could get a picture of this helicopter flying over my house here before we leave. It's I don't know if you can see right above the moon there, being surveilled by another helicopter.
Yep. But totally not.
I don't think that one's a Black Hawk, though, and it's kind of interesting. I can tell by the sound of the chopper blades if they're Black Hawks or something else. But anyway, thank you, Kara. You are an amazing leader yourself. You give me a lot of hope and inspiration, and mutual hug, love fest, Heather. You're a joy to know, and it's been a pleasure to be part of this big team. And it's let's keep the ball rolling. Let's keep this momentum going, and let's make some real change.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris, so much. We appreciate that you were able to spend so much time with us. We really appreciate that. Thank you.
We love you, Chris.
See ya. Take care. Love you both.
Bye, guys.
That was pretty amazing.